The last 3 are actually Canadian companies, and I'll get back to this later, but the point is that there tends to be a trend in the acquirer group as well as the technologies that are acquired in any given point in time. And what we normally advise entrepreneurs is to keep those trends in mind, because they're not only important to start building your strategies for an exit and to also to develop your product pipeline, but keep in mind these are the type of metrics that investors are looking for when looking for a new investment to make. The reason being, this is what provides investors some insight into where the company is going to go and the type of return that we will get as investors. So I picked one example. CoreValve was an investment that Medtronic made this year. It's actually considered the largest investment in medical devices. This is a US company in this year, in 2009. They have been extremely aggressive in the cardiovascular sector. And at the time when they acquired CoreValve, they also acquired Venture Technologies. Similar technologies, completely different locations, at different stages. CoreValve had raised about $57 million at the time when they were acquired. Venture Technologies had raised $17 million at the time, venture financing. So 2 different companies, 2 different stages, same acquirer. And those are the type of things that you should keep in mind when developing the strategies for your companies. Who has appetite for what type of technology, and where do you fit in their interest level? Last 2 slides. This one is to show you. Well, what I wanted to do with this slide is to talk a little bit about the investment environment and how things are changing and have changed dramatically over the past 2 years. So in our experience with our companies, it's taking longer both to raise financing and to get to an exit. And you should work that into your budgets and development plans for your companies. The second point of what that means, and that's something that Peter mentioned as well, there is a smaller pool of money available for venture firms, and the result of that is less money available for making new deals. So venture capital firms have spent more time and more dollars in the last couple of years in their current portfolio companies versus new deals. So this is what the chart is showing up there. The bottom part of the bar shows dollars gone into. Actually, this is number of deals, pardon me. Number of deals done as follow-on financings from current investments in those portfolio companies at the expense of making less deals. And the message here is there is more competition for new deals, and you really have to think about what's the key differentiating factor that is making your company stand out from all that competition. So I will conclude with this slide, and I'd like to leave you with 4 thoughts. The first one, investment size, raise the right amount of capital for your company to get you to an inflection point or a value creation point. That means a lot of things depending on the industry, depending on the type of device that you're developing. If it's a 510K device, for instance, in our experience with our own companies, the FDA is getting tougher with the 510K path. It's taking longer, it's more expensive, so ideally your investment would get you to meaningful commercial revenue. If it's a PMA device, for instance, the investment should ideally get you to clinical data, and some investors are even more cautious and they would only invest when there's human data. So keep those in mind. We talked about exits and the importance of understanding the acquisition market and who's interested in what type of technologies. In terms of cash, try to use as many non-dilutive sources of financing available to you. We've heard that today many times. Organizations like ACAMP, the new medical or renamed medical product development program, whatever the exact name is, managed by Alberta. They're accepting applications right now. We're actually part of the selection committee, so we will be looking at those applications. Keep those programs in mind. And my last comment is really to engage investors early in the process before you are actually fundraising for your companies. That really facilitates the dialogue later on. So as you as you're progressing with your companies and are taking them to the next step, let them know, both existing and future investors, And that will just make that dialogue easier later. So that concludes my presentation today. Thank you very much.